administrator, a trend auditor, and financial manager with cross-sectoral experience and a track record of successful financial modeling. Her expertise with decoupling business financial imperatives, understanding details, and providing sound insights for effective decision-making makes her an astute financial research administrator. With years of experience as a financial research administrator and membership of National Council of University Research Administrators, NCORA, Ifemeluma Onya functions as a finance manager in a leading research institute in Nigeria. Today, we shall tap into her wealth of experience as she discusses budget development for grant proposal. So join me as we welcome Ifemeluma Onya for today's section. You're welcome, madam.
Thank you, Amako Gidi. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, everyone. Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I welcome you once again to today's webinar. I would like to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. Today, like Amako Gidi said, we will be delving into the topic, budget development for grant proposals. Please, before I go on, I would like us to remember to go to the charts and answer the pre-test questions. Please, it will help us in this webinar. Please, if you're just joining, or if you're yet to, or you've been here, please kindly attend to those questions. So first, when we hear the word budget, many people run away because all that comes to mind is figures. But today, the intention is that after today, we will no longer run away when we hear the word budget. We would be able to understand that budget goes beyond accounting. It tells a story of a research proposal. That's what it is. So there is no need to run away from figures. So our learning objectives, by the end of this session, what we intend to achieve is that every participant here would have understood the purpose of a grant budget, be able to identify the key budget components, then also be able to apply the cost principle, which is the golden rule in budget preparation. So this is what we intend to achieve today. Here is our outline for the day, our table of content. So let's go ahead. What is a budget? As you can see on the screen, this is the definition of a budget. It doesn't come better than this, but in a layman's term, a budget is simply a representation of whatever it is you have in mind in figures. That is the simple definition of a budget, representing what you have in mind. It may be your market list, which is what we all have come in contact with, either as a worker, as a family person, what you have or what comes in for the month or for the week. You are always trying, even in your mind, to see that you manage what you have before the next pay. So with regards to grant budgets, simply put, it is translating the story of the scientists in figures. Whatever story the science person has written down, which is the proposal, your attempt to put this story in figures is what we refer to as a budget. Of course, you don't just put it down. There are things you consider in putting down this story in figures. Then we'll not move ahead without pointing out what a budget justification is. A budget justification comes from a budget. It is a detailed explanation. It goes into detail to add flesh to that cost, those figures you have. The justification explains it better. So in budget, there are things a funder is looking for when a funder asks you to add a budget to your proposal submission. There are documents that are needed when you are submitting a proposal. So a budget, when you are submitting a budget, it is one of the items you need. So, but there is a purpose why the funder asks you to put that budget there. What is it for? We know that there is no free lunch. Whoever that is playing the piper dictates the tune. So for a funder to be able to give you money or to sponsor your idea, they want to know what you need, why you need those things, and how much you need. So why does a grant budget matter? For a whole lot of reasons. First, it all boils down to what the funder wants. It matters because the funder needs it to be able to take decisions. And what are those decisions? If you're an institution applying for applying for a funding, one, the funder would want to know whether you have the capability, whether you are equal to the task, whether you have the infrastructure, whether you have the things, the environment that will enable you to be able to carry out what you said you will carry out. So they are interested because of these reasons stated here. If for any reason they don't find what they are looking for, then that means you've not met up to what they want. So they want to know whether what you're giving is real. They want to know from your budget, they will know about your planning, whether you just scribble down those things. So that is why a grant budget matters. There are situations where you have a very good idea, the scientists will have a very good idea, but because the budget is not able to convey those ideas in realistic terms, then those funders will not trust you to fund you. We have two major budget types. We have the modular budget and the detailed budget. Across all institutions, no matter the format they use, it's always pointing to either a modular budget or a detailed budget. What is a modular budget? Modular budget is a budget that just has the direct cost in lump sum of $250,000 and below. So there is no breakdown, while a detailed budget or categorical or itemized, depending on the funder, these three terms are always the same. So a detailed budget is when a funder wants you to put down every item, everything that you think you need. They don't want you to merge any. They want to see it the way it is. So modular budget is simplified. A detailed budget is there is nothing simple about it. And mostly for complex projects, funders will always want you to use a detailed budget so that they can see all that you want to do. This is a budget form flow chart. In this flow chart, let me just explain. In this flow chart, there are situations. If your answer for any of these questions here is yes, then you can use a modular budget. But if for any reason your answer is no, then you are supposed to use a detailed budget, mostly for NIH funding. Am I being heard?
Yes, clearly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Please, I want to remind us once again, we are going far into the topic. So I would like to remind those that are just joining us to please go to the chat, click on the link, and help us fill the form. Help us answer the pretest question while we forge ahead. So if you look at these questions here, for an institution that is not based in the United States, that's an international funding agency. If you are not based in the United States, automatically you are to use a detailed budget. But for other conditions, if you are based in the United States, the budget you are trying to prepare, the limitation of the fund per year is $250,000. You are applying for an RO1 and you are based in the United States, then you will need to use a modular budget. This is an example of what a modular budget form looks like. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see clearly.
So if you look at this form, we have just A and B. We have just A and B. This is a modular budget. So under A, we have our direct costs, less consortium indirect costs. So I will explain, I cannot explain this direct consortium indirect cost, F&A here, under the direct cost. We are seeing indirect consortium cost. But in our workshop during our NISA conference coming up later this year, we would get to understand. So if you are going for a proposal that involves more than one institution, that's a complex opportunity, and you want to team up with some organizations, or you want to have a sub-award under you, there are rules, specific and detailed rules that you have to follow. That is how you will be able to understand this consortium indirect cost. So let's go ahead. So if you look at this place, you just see that you just put the total amount of the funding opportunity here, which I said comes in a lump sum of 250,000. Then you now have your indirect costs, for which the rate is always determined by the funder. That's it. There is no space here for you to start listing or categorizing your costs. Then this is another form, another budget form for NIH. This is a research-related budget form. If you look at this, if you look closely, you would see that we have various sessions. At least we can see A, we can see B. Session A has to do with you putting all the personnel, all the persons, all the staff, the team members that will be on this project, mostly the key personnel. Then you now have the B, the other personnel. You see, they even broke it down that you have to separate those that are key personnel on this project, then other personnel. Then if you go down further, you would see where you have your equipment, your travel costs. They are listed and you have to fill them one after the other. So that makes it a detailed budget. Then this is a Welcome Trust budget form. Welcome Trust is another funder based in the UK. So if you look at their own form, you can see that it is not as detailed as that of the NIH R&R budget. But yes, their items are listed for you to fill in and put the amount. So this is itemizing, is an itemized budget. So let's talk about the components of budget. Please, I would like us to, am I being heard? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Please, I would like us to put in the charts the different types of budgets that we have. Let me see if we are following. So components of budget, while we do that, I can't see anything. I can't see any.
So I can tell you, someone said modular
yes,
and detailed.
I can see it coming. I can see it coming. Okay. Yes. Can you give me an example of a funder that requests for detailed budgets? Thank you, Ebere. Thank you, Nathaniel. Okay. NIH. Thank you so much. Thank you. Also, can you tell me the situations where we can use a detailed budget? I did not mention it explicitly, but I'm believing that somebody would get it. The cap on the budget rates. Just like the modular budget is for 250,000 and below. Thank you. I can see your response. Please keep it coming. Okay. Precious, I can see. Okay. Thank you so much. So let's continue. Components of a budget. No matter the funder, no matter the funding institution, every item inside a budget falls under either direct costs or the indirect costs. It doesn't come from any other place. So, and direct costs by definition are those costs that you are specifically related to a particular project. Those costs that are tied to a particular project. So that means if this project must happen, then this must be incurred. So those costs, you can say, yes, this goes directly to so and so item because it is needed on this project. So they are directly related to that project. While the indirect costs are those costs that you cannot hold, you cannot say it is just for this singular project alone. It cuts across several projects. It forms part of the administrative cost of an institution. So an institution can be handling 5 or 10 projects at a time. But the direct costs are those costs that are specifically related to each of those projects, while the indirect costs can be shared across the project in the capacity of what they are contributing. So examples of direct costs on a project are personnel costs, the equipment, the supplies, the travel costs. Remember, when I say travel, I mean travel costs that must happen because of that project, not a cost for you to go and buy something for office use. That's not directly related. You can't tie it to any particular project. Then we have other direct costs. So no matter the funder, these categories, as you are looking at them, it appears across most research funders, although the naming and the cap may be different. Some funders, you will see data collection as a direct cost listed in their form. That's okay. While some will put it as other direct costs. They are all direct costs. So let's talk about personnel. Personnel cost is usually the most attractive item in budgets. Why? Because it forms up to, in some projects, it can form up to 50% of the cost to deliver that project may be built in the personnel. That is the human capacity that is needed to execute that project. Remember, somebody wrote what he wants to do, and it is people that will go ahead to execute those things. No matter the activity, personnel, human beings are involved. So personnel usually takes up most percentage of a project. And for that reason, for that singular reason, most funders are very much interested in what your personnel cost is. That's usually the first place they go. And what makes up personnel costs? You have the basic salaries, then you have the fringe benefits. These are the two things that make up the personnel costs. We cannot go into details. Personnel cost on its own and how to calculate personnel efforts is a very huge thing. But I believe we have understood what it is and the things that make up personnel costs. Like I said before, during our NISA conference, we will dwell so much. We'll have a workshop where we will have a full package of these components of a budget. So let's forge ahead. Then we have the equipment. Equipment are classified as those things we need for a project for which their lifespan first is more than 1 year. Then second, depending on the funder, some will tell you a single unit of this equipment as an item should be more than $10,000. So if you have an item, let's say laptop, most funders, if that laptop, that singular unit of laptop is $1,500, it will come down to form supplies for most funders. But if a single laptop, no matter if you need 5 laptops and a single laptop is $10,000, then that means you have to move it up to equipment. So like I said, depending on the funder. Then we have our travel costs. I've mentioned this before. Make sure that the travel cost is for travel that is directly related to this project. This travel is happening because of this project. Then we have other direct costs like publication, data collection costs, consultants. There are situations where you would need some experts depending on the project. So the cost for hiring those consultants for their time comes here. Then we have trainings and workshops that comes with projects. All these forms our direct costs. Then our indirect costs. It's usually a percentage of what your direct cost is. Funders in their guideline, in the funding opportunity announcement, will tell you what percentage you can use as your indirect costs. So when you have your total direct costs, Then you apply that percentage on your total direct cost. Then you have your indirect costs. So I want to mention something else here. For personnel costs, you pay for time, for efforts. So when I say base salary, I don't mean if your salary is 500,000 and you are on a project, that means every month that project will be paying you 500,000. No. So your contribution to that project is what the project will pay you for. So that we call that your effort, your time, the time you are dedicating on that project. So it takes we'll calculate, we'll see how the calculation goes as we move forward. Please remember, if you have any question, please kindly drop it in the Q&A session. We will dedicate some time to attend to every question. So our guiding principles. There are principles, there are rules that you must follow. I said it earlier. You don't just assign figures. There are cost principles that you must follow while preparing your budget. Remember, because funders are looking for something, they want to be sure of what you need, how much you need, why you need it. So for this reason, you have to follow the cost principles. And what are these principles? We can see them here: allowable, allocable, reasonable, consistency, and conformity. So for every cost you put on a project, it must answer these questions. For every cost, you must first check, this cost I'm putting on this project, is it necessary? Is it reasonable? Can it be traced to this project? Then, am I being consistent? It's not when you are traveling today, you put 500, tomorrow, the same distance, you put 5 million. So then, am I following the rules? Conformity. Remember, for compliance sake, you have to follow the rule of the funder. And these rules are found in the notice, that call for that research proposal. You have to read it. You will find what they are looking for, what they have told you to do, and how to do it. So for every rule that they want you to follow, you must adhere to them. Then for reasonable, we are all in Nigeria, or we have some people outside Nigeria here, but most problems we have with our African leaders is when they present their budgets, when they present the nation's budget. You will be seeing figures, you will be seeing amounts of money that you will wonder, are these people, or is this thing, are these people, do they think that we are fools? Somebody will tell you, I want to use 500 million to dig a well. You will wonder whether this cost is reasonable or not. So the golden rule in applying this cost principle is, if that cost will benefit the project more than it will benefit the individual, then that cost is needed on that project. So common budget errors. In preparing our budgets, there are errors we encounter or we make. You can see them listed here. Of course, if you follow the rules, if you follow the cost principle, most of these errors will be mitigated. They are mistakes, yes, and they are common, but they are completely avoidable. When you plan, when you read the funding opportunity, when you try to find out what the funder needs, then most of these errors can be avoided. Especially, you can see one of the errors here is ignoring funder guideline. Ignoring funder guideline. A child who decides not to listen to his or her parents when they are guiding him, don't go here, don't go here. Most times, if that child decides to go there, whatever he sees, he will take. Am I still being heard, please?
Yes, yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. So we have some practical tips and for best practices. These are things that when we do them, then we are sure to have a budget that is compliant, a budget that can stand any type of review, a budget that conforms with what the science is saying. First, you have to start early. Remember, I know we don't have only research administrators here. I know we may have faculty members here. So if we start early, and when we say start early, you don't just start yourself. You can see one of the tips here, involve finance, so admin staff. So as the science is being born, maybe the first draft or the second draft, you carry the finance along. Then the budget will start taking shape. The experienced person there or somebody that knows what budget is all about will be able to catch that this thing is not aligning with this. This thing is not making so much sense. How do we do this? Then we'll brainstorm. So it's a collaborative effort. It's a partnership. Both the faculty and then the research administrator, the finance, depending on the unit in your organization. Then using historical data, it saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of time and it helps you to plan well. You have to check what the data is saying. If it is a cost, you can actually check to see what it is. Then you can know what you project in future, in 1 year time, in 6 months time, just like that. So it's just like a baseline. When you check historical data, you have the foundation for you to now build on. Then know your limits. Funders in announcing their call in the funding opportunity announcement, they usually tell you, this is what we have mapped out for this project. So whatever you do, you must not exceed this particular amount. Some people will go ahead to prepare their budgets without even knowing the limits. And once you are not within the limits, that means you are not compliant, you are not conforming to what the funder wants. They may end up not even looking at what you have done, the beautiful work you have done. So ensure that you work with your team so that we can be able to apply these best practices. Now, before we go ahead, we are about to enter the case study. Just in a few minutes time, we'll be done. But before we go ahead, I would like to ask, has anyone here prepared a budget before? I would like to see that in the comments section. Okay. So can you tell me those things you considered while preparing budgets, and maybe those things that you found confusing or difficult in the process of preparing that budget? Okay, we have a lot of people here that have prepared budgets before. Okay. Okay. Can you tell us those challenges you encountered while preparing those budgets. No, just put it in the chat. Put it on the chat, please. We will go to question and answer session when the time comes. Just drop your response in the comment section. So while we do that, we move to a case study. I want us to do just a little exercise. Okay, so this is an adapted question. It's not a real life question. If you look at this question, if you look at this case study, this is a project. We are using just 1 year, but it's, let's say, 1 year out of the number of years this project may last. So what's the summary of this project? This is a proposed project. This summary is that this project aims to reduce maternal complications in rural communities through 1, community health worker training, data collection on antenatal care visits, community sensitization workshops, monitoring and evaluation. So this is a summary of a proposed project. Now, somebody tell me from this summary, from this proposal here, this short proposal, can you tell me the cost activities that may likely come out of, be driven by this project? From what we have done so far, from what we have listened to so far about what a budget is, the components of a budget, the types of budgets, common errors. Can somebody tell me what activities you think can drive cost? Remember, we said a budget in simple terms is putting the science story in figures. So can you tell me what and what can drive costs here? Nobody? Nobody is responding. Okay. I'm still seeing response on the first, the other question. Okay. Yes, somebody is saying something. So they're all coming in at once. Personnel, travels. Okay. Yes. That means we are following data collection. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Catherine, Kelvin. Thank you. So our next slide answers the first question. So we said identify project activity / cost. The first activity identified here is project coordination, which has to do with the staff that will be on this project, their costs. Then we have training of CHOOS. So what and what is involved in training the CHOOS? We need training materials, we need a venue, we need trainers, facilitators. They may be part of the staff that will be on the project, or we may need to hire experts. Remember, consultants. So we may need to get consultants to help, depending on the training that is mapped out. Then we have data collection. Somebody mentioned that in this training, if that training will happen for more than a day, there will be need to make provision for accommodation and feeding, refreshments. Somebody mentioned data collection. So we need field staff that will collect the data. We need transport to move them from site to site. Then we need data tools. Okay, we have monitoring and reporting. Personnel time. Okay, somebody that will be the project manager. Then softwares for monitoring, and then dissemination, very important. When you have done all the activities, there is need to report to show what you found out in carrying out the activities or the study. Okay, so these are the cost drivers with regards to this short project that we intend to carry out. Then the next thing, after identifying the project activities, what do you think is the next? For the want of time, let's forge ahead. Let's forge ahead. The next is to develop the line item budget. If you see this caption, use approved currency. Use approved currency. That's very important also. If it's an international funder, even when you have done your budget in your local currency, always translate to your funder's base currency. So first, we have the principal investigator, who should be the person in charge of the project. Then we have the project coordinator. I mentioned that, project manager. Then you have the data officer, those people that will do the data collection. So please, if you look at this, can somebody tell me why we have the principal investigator, who is the overall or the head of this study, at 20%, and then we have the project coordinator at 50%? Can somebody tell me why we may have a situation like this? It's a common. Okay, I'm looking at the comment section. Yes, because of the effort. Ali said because of the effort. Yes, but why is that effort? Why is the effort of the principal investigator? Why do you think it may be more than that of the project coordinator? So with this, we will explain further, or we understand more when we said that it is not just the time you're spending on the project. Yes, Matthew. Yes, Matthew. Yes, yes. You understand that. Matthew, thank you for that response. Thank you for that response. So the project coordinator is usually doing the work day in, day out. Day in, day out. He coordinates the activity. He spends more hours attending. He will attend to the field staff. He will attend to the CHUs. He will attend to even the principal investigator. So most times, the project coordinator or the program manager spends more hours on the project. So you would not say because the principal investigator is the head or is championing this project, you will not say because of this, then his effort should be higher. No. So most of the times, the project manager or the coordinator puts in more effort, more time. He may end up spending half of his whole day just on this project, trying to make sure that there is coordination. Those are the sites and every other person. Thank you, Ali, for that. So let's go forward. So our solution continues. Then we've gotten the base salaries. Now we are going for the fringe benefits. I told you that two things add up to make up our personnel costs: the base salary and then the fringe benefits. So what are these fringe benefits? It varies from organization, but just make sure you are applying your institutional policy. In Nigeria, we have a pension, we have insurance, we have life assurance. Some people have work hazard. Some people have other entitlements. So what you consider here is your particular institutional policy. Apply it, then you have your fringe benefit rates for each personnel on the project. Then we have equipment here. So for this funder, remember I said, depending on the funder, most times your laptop may form supplies, depending on the funder. Then most times it may form equipment. So sometimes you need to separate the two. But for this purpose of this example, we have our laptop for data management as the equipment that you may be needing. So we need one. Just make sure you're able to justify why. In your budget justification, that is where you will now state why you need 1 or 2 or 3 laptops. Who and who will be using it? What will they use it for? Then we have supplies. If you look at this, we have our training manuals and printing, data collection materials, office supplies. These are the itemization of what's made up our supplies. Then in your budget justification, you will go ahead to now explain or itemize these office supplies. Well, if you look well, you will see that this is not lumped. We don't just have supplies at 3,000. We have a breakdown of the items that made up this supply. Then the next is travel, field visits, stakeholder meeting travel. You see, these travels are directly related to these projects. Of course, they will go to the field to collect the data, and then they will have stakeholder meetings with the locals of that site where they are holding that, going to collect the data. They have to meet with the stakeholders, stuff like that. Then we have other direct costs. As you can see, we've listed this before. We have our publication and dissemination here, data analysis software license, community training workshops. Sometimes you may have communication costs for those communication that are directly related to that project. That can as well come under here. So now we have our total direct costs. Remember, we started with our personnel. So for this case study, our total personnel is 44,000. Then we have our fringe, our equipment, which is the laptop. Then we have our supplies. Then we have our travel. Then the other direct costs. All these make up our total direct cost to be $72,200. Then we now have our indirect costs. We are using NIH approved rate of 8% for the purpose of this study. Your call, your funding opportunity announcement will tell you the rates to use. So some institutions have negotiated rates, but they have documentations to prove that. So we go ahead. The indirect cost here is now 8% of that 72,200. If you look at the comment here, you'll see that the rate is funder approved. So you are compliant by using that 8%. Then just by the corner, we have our total budget cost, which is total direct cost plus total indirect costs. We have our total budget cost of 77,976. So we've come to the end of our case study. I hope this little exercise helped clarify we learned 1 or 2 things that has been confusing to us before now. So our key takeaways for today is that a budget in layman's term, as regards grant budget, tells project story in numbers. We've learned that it is very necessary that we adhere to funders' rules. Very, very necessary, so that our proposal will not be thrown out. If we don't adhere, we may likely disobey, and then will not come into the net of those that they will even check because we did not agree to the limits. Then accuracy builds trust with funders. When a funder reviews your budget and the things you have there are aligning with the story, it helps them. It helps them a lot in their decisions, and it helps to explain more or bring to light more the plan or the purpose of that call that you are responding to. Then a good budget ensures smooth project implementation. Yes, the budget goes beyond that time you are submitting your proposal. If you did your budget well, even after the submission, if you get that funding, that detail, those attention, those things you were able to do right will guide you in your implementation phase. You will not be left hanging on the way. if you followed all the rules that you're supposed to follow. So, thank you very much. Thank you all for listening to this short presentation. I hope I was able to we're able to learn one or two or achieve our purpose, our objective, which we mentioned in the beginning. Thank you very much. I will hand over to the moderator now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ifemenuma Onya. We appreciate your presentation. I am sure those that are here with me will appreciate the fact that you did justice to this topic. And of course, I can see a lot of thumbs up coming on the chat. Okay, so we actually have a few questions that would want you to answer for them. The first is by Maureen Ume Kowulu. It says, thanks for a nice presentation. Please, what do you mean by historical data? Did you hear me, or should I read out the questions throughout so that you can take them together?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that is asking about historical data. Then another person says, if I am preparing a budget in response to a local call for research, what are the main and essential components that should be included in the budget lines? Okay, then Chiedozie Ike is asking, when you are involved in an international collaborative research with Western institutions and during the budget, due to the Naira value or exchange rate, you find out that the Nigerian personnel cost is almost tiny compared to those from the West. And when efforts are used to calculate personnel costs, that's a full-time effort, the individual cost is discouraging. Is there any room for a proportional increase to the baseline, like salary from institutions per annum, with justification before calculating the full-time efforts? Okay, these are the... One said, what is full-time equivalent in personnel budgeting? So these are the 4 questions. I don't know if you can take them one by each, or we should read one. What is full-time equivalent in personnel budgeting?
I'll start with the first question. The person that asked, what is historical cost? So like I said, when I was explaining, I said you have a baseline, right? Let's say in your institution, you've been submitting proposals. You submitted last year, and then this year you have another call. So it saves time if you can go back to check what this cost was as at last year. Then you now go online. There are resources where you can find what you're looking for. For those costs that are not engraved or enshrined in your institutional policy, like salary, for example, you don't go looking for what the salary is online. Let's use a laptop as an example. So you can go online. The costs are there. It depends on which model you want, the capacity you want. So you can get what it is online. Then it will help you to form a basis. Remember, this budget you are preparing, you are not getting the funding today. You're not getting it today. But if you're able to find what it was yesterday, what it is now, then you are at a better place to get what you need. That's what I mean when I say historical cost, historical data. Then the second question for the person that asked about preparing budget for local collaboration, right? What he or she needs. Am I right?
Yes, he said line items, budget items too.
Okay, so first we said that you don't just prepare budget in isolation. It is the budget is being built from a proposal, right? So those things, whether local funding or international funding, first, there is a call, there is an announcement telling you to bid for this or to apply for this, right? If you've read what the funder is looking for and the conditions and criteria, and you think you met all, that's one. Then two, what the scientist has written, what we plan to do. Those are the things that will form the cost you would have. You don't just apply cost. You apply cost to match the activities in the proposal, the timeline, the planning, everything. So your cost should represent what is written, conforming to what the funder wants. So even if it is a local funding, what you want to do, that execution, what you want to do for that local funding, that is what will form the basis. This little exercise we did, the case study, we mentioned what and what that is needed to be done. Then from there, we build activities that will drive those costs. Then for the salary, yes, our local salary, our salary here in Nigeria is not the same with those that are abroad, right? But if you are going to carry out that project here in Nigeria, it means that the environment where you are, your costs should be based on the environment where you are. You can't use the salary scale of another institution abroad, or you write them that you want to. No, you have to follow your institutional policy. Because sometimes these funders, they know. Sometimes they know. So remember, you are not in it to make profit, right? You are trying to solve a problem. And they are saying, I will pay you for your time on this project. So whatever your institutional salary policy is, that is what you will have to apply. I don't think there is another way to respond to this, and you wouldn't be committing an offense. Then full-time equivalent. Full-time equivalent is 100%. That is, if you will be spending 12 months on a project, the whole 12 months, and then your time on that project, average hour per week, per day, is 8 hours. If you'll be spending 8 hours on that project every day, that means you are on that project full time, every day of the week, 5 days in a week. That means you are dedicating your entire day for that project. And that means you should be full time, which is 100% on that project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, our speaker, for today. We did emphasize that questions should be posted on Q&A, and those are the 4 questions we have on Q&A. If there are other questions, please, I think the admin will have our contacts on the chat. If you have questions that are not yet answered, for now, our time is actually used up, and we wouldn't want to keep others staying for long, but we have our contact on the chat. So please, you can reach us with more of your questions, and we would like to take those questions. Or if you have any other concern you want to raise, please, you're welcome to reach us on our emails is already on the chart. So, and then please, if you are here and you enjoy what we are doing, please, there is also a link for a post-assessment survey. We want to know if our speaker actually did justice to the topic and the learning objectives. Did you get what you expected? Or is there any other topic or related topic you want us to take subsequent months that we need to plan for? Please, we will want you to click on that link, the post-test link, and then just in less than 2 minutes, you are done. Let's just know your opinion. Let's find out if you learned something and you have something to take home. We will be very glad. Remember, it's going to help us to come up with better topics and better slides with source for speakers that will meet your need. And then the slides or the recordings, we will upload them to our website and share a link where you can have access to it within 14 days of this webinar. We are going to, so visit our website and then you're going to see these slides and the links so that you can also have access to listening to them over and over. So thank you, everybody. But before you drop, we have 1 or 2 more announcements. Now, this section we had today as a webinar, we are going to have a workshop on these topics during our annual conference. That is the NISA conference that will be coming up in September. I want to invite you to that conference because it's going to be very exposing. A lot of us would like to learn more, and then we want to have it as a hands-on section. So please, for our NISA, I'm going to display the NISA here. Our flyer is out. Look out for this. Visit our web page and get registered. You can save the date. NISA 2026. NISA Conference 2026. Please save the date from 2nd to the 4th of September at Abuja Continental Hotel. Please visit our website. It's going up on the chart, and register and plan to attend. The last day of the conference is a special day for research administrators. There are so much laid in store. So please carry the news abroad, share with your colleagues, share with upcoming research administrators. Together, let us build up something great for this region. I'm sure you will appreciate, you will be happy that you did if you attended. Remember, 2nd to the 4th of September, 2026. Plan and be there. That will be great. So we want to say once more, thank you so much for all that attended today. Remember, next month, there will be another series. Plan to attend and also invite your colleagues. Thank you so much. Do we have any other announcements from our NISA leaders?
Not from me.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much, Tomata. Thank you for breaking down something that usually appear very daunting to everyone to do that. I think one of interesting questions, as I was saying, is really how do you handle the issues about salaries in Nigeria compared to salary of equivalent of people outside of Nigeria. And those are the things that we're going to be discussing at the workshop at NISA. That will be very interesting. That's one thing that we should want to address there, because you can't make up your salary if you're asked to prove anything. That becomes fraud. So you have to be in a place that your salary is the salary that you have on the ground. And that's some of the things that we have had many different ways to address that, but something that we are going to address at NISA in September. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Zanole, for that. So I want to appreciate all. Remember, you can encourage your team from your institutions or your region to join us, Consortium of African Research Administrators. You have our contacts on the chat, and you can always reach us or give us a contact of those you want us to reach out, and we shall do that. So I want to say once more, thank you for making today a special day. See you again in March. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Al. Yo.